Hello and welcome to Week 10 Finishing Touches. We're going to take and finish up our website today, our web page, because we have two other pages to make. And what we did last week is we took and lined up our flex box, the rest of the page. So on week 10, we're going to do the navigation and the logo, and we're going to get these items in the header hooked up the way they should be, with these words going across the proper way we're going to do it. Some of you tried laying things out and some of you did a pretty good job, but we're doing this particular thing a certain way, so make sure that you have it like this on your page. All right, so if you go over here to the activity instructions, and it talks about things that we have done, and it looks pretty close to the wireframe, and it's getting fixed up nice. It wants you to look at these items here, click on them and go to them, because those will help you in the long run. It talks about Flexbox, CSS inline blocks, pseudo classes, margins, line height, and descendant selectors, so that you understand a little bit about what we're doing on today in lesson 10. All right, so step 1, it says we're going to make our links go across the page. And I kind of highlighted things. I have this really cool and groovy highlighter that lets me take and select, and then it saves the highlight for me. It's just a download that I'm using, and it was free, so why not? So anyway, I'm highlighting the things that are the important names that you'll need to know. And I've done most of them already, but anyway, it says we're going to do things with select elements that you worked on in Khan Academy and stuff, and we're doing laying the names up here, names, so that they will look like this, laying out next to each other. We're going to do those using the nav li. All right, so I'm going to bring up the code page, and I'm going to start by nav li. I'm going to add a display inline block. All right, now if we go back and look at the page, it's laid them out next to each other. Now, no, they're not spaced or anything yet. That'll come a little bit later on this lesson. But how easy, one command and it lays them out properly. Instead of using margin and a whole bunch of changes, display inline block. All right, and then also we're going to add to nav, the plain old nav, we're going to add the one EM of padding if you haven't already put it there. All right, and we're going to come down here to the next part, step 2, and we're going to work on the height of our nav bar. Now, you've already done some sizing last week, like I did some sizing, and we're going to use line height to do that, but I'm going to give it much more because it needs to be just about the same height, close to the same height as my logo. So I'm going to give my line height, which is down here in nav A, I'm going to give it more like 4 EM. Now that sounds really big, But once I make these a little bigger and we get going, it's not going to be that big at all, because this is going to come down and join these other things. It's going to actually sit on top of the nav bar. Not above it, but on top of it. All right, so that was that step. The reason you could do just height of 3M, but that would make it so that all these names are up here at the top instead of where we want them to be. All right, so we're going to go on, and we're going to move the whole navigation bar up so that it's kind of scooches it up underneath the logo. And I'm going to do that. And when I say up to the top, if you see up here where my background color ends and then it goes white, we're going to cover all the way to the top of that background color. So to do that, we're going to use margin top, and that's actually the simplest way to do it. And then that's going to go in just plain old nav. So come up here to plain old nav, not nav A, not nav LI, and we're going to put margin top. And you're going to make it a negative number to move it up. Remember that positioning activity where we had to go a negative 50? Well, we're going to make it go up to the top. I'm going to guess that maybe, and you can adjust it, I'm going to say maybe 100 to start with. Pixels. Well, that moved it up most of the way, so I'd say 10, 20, 30, maybe 130. Just a little bit left. And maybe 50. You don't want to go all the way to the tippy top. You want to leave a little space of white at the top. So it looks like about 150. Now notice what that did. That made it move up, but it made it so it's kind of all jumbled up there. And you'll notice that one thing that we're going to do in order to move that over, the instructions tell you to use padding left in the nav LI. So I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to go padding left, go to nav LI, and we're going to go padding left. Oops, dash left. And let me see, maybe got to move it over quite a bit, so maybe 175. Now, 150 to start with. Now, it's not a negative number. Don't forget to put that semicolon at the end. Oh, notice it didn't move. So can you see what I didn't do right? I forgot to put pixels. You must put what it is you want it to be represented by. And now it's moved them over. It's looking good. And I'm going to make it instead 175. Because it needs a little bit more. But I don't want to go too far. Oh, I like that. That looks good. But I want them even. I want them a little bit closer to the edge over there. I'm going to do 180 for now and just leave it at that. It might change. See, when you're working in the navigation, you're actually going to, it's going to be a back and forth thing that you're going to work on. It's not going to be something that the first number you hit is going to be correct. All right, so now I have them laying there. I do want to make, when you make them a little bit bigger, the words, if you don't do it at the beginning and you make them bigger, it's going to change everything slightly. So be prepared, to tweak it back and forth. So I want to make my text a little bit bigger, make it a little more inviting. So I'm going to come back over here and make my font size, make it like 175. 1.75. I like that better. Didn't change the top, so that's good. And I might take a little bit of that. If after putting everything on, I might take my line height down a little bit. There's a reason I make it big in the first place. You'll see as we go along. All right, so the next thing it tells you is if you have a space, like this is a black space on mine, or you might have whatever your background color showing through, or if you don't have a background color, you may have the plain white background. If you see something like that, you'll want to do a nav UL. That's the only thing it's going to do. And always put nav in front of all of these. And you're going to do margin. Oops, silly. 0. You don't have to put 0 pixels, just 0. And that's going to make everything line up better. All right, so that's that instruction. Then it comes down and says, now you're going to go down to the logo, and you're going to tell it to be relative, position relative. So we're going to do that next. And that's going to make it so that the words, you'll see. So let's go down into the logo and go position relative. All right, and what that's going to do is it's going to keep these from coming back and infringing on it. It's going to hold the place of it, even though in my case it stayed over there kind of by itself. And then it tells you to make the background color blue or whatever you want it to be. Now, I have no color background. Mine's a translucent, so it takes on whatever it's sitting in front of. So to do this other part, I'm going to demonstrate it with a background color, but then I'll take it back out at the end. So I'm going to put a background color in my logo. And you're going to probably do the same thing if you have a regular one that doesn't need it, you don't have to do this step. And I'm going to put a lighter blue of I forget what the name. What were the other numbers? Oh, FF. All right, I'm going to put a light blue background color. Maybe I put a non-existent one. And sometimes you'll have to refresh your screen. if it doesn't show the changes that you made, because that can happen. Like mine's not showing the change. Okay, so I got it. I was not making it the correct color. I had a G there and it's really a 3. So now when I put my semicolon and I go back up here and look at it, it's a light blue. There we go. That's what I was trying to do. All right, so then it says we're going to move the logo down 10 pixels and to the right 10 pixels. And that's so it's not like hugging the edge. So I'm going to do, and that's done in the logo. So I'm going to go left and right, no, top. Both of them 10 pixels. All right, so that's moved it over. We got a nice little gap there. And then it says put a border around it. So that's an instruction you need to follow. And it's you put the color you want, the size in pixels of the outside edge border, and solid. And it's all one statement like that. So the one that I'm using is the one that's in here, because this shows mine. So I'm going to copy this whole thing. It's my example. And I'm going to come back over here and paste that in my code. So I have border, the color, space. It's only one space, only ever one space. And I had to take a space out because to make it look like a space on the assignment, I had to make it 2 spaces. But in reality, it can only be 1 space. So now, come back and I've got a 2 pixel border around it. And you can change the color if you want of a different border color. And then I like, you know me, to add that 3D effect. So I'm going to add that box shadow that I always add and the border radius. Because I like curved edges. You can make it a bigger amount of pixels if you want a more of a curve, or you can make it 5 pixels is about the least. It just takes the edge off. All right, and that separates it from my other blue on the nav. And that's showing that how it's finished. All right, so now we're going to make these have more of a space between so that you don't have to click exactly right on the name, so you can click around it. Plus, I'm going to show you a little trick on how to make a box around those. All right, so we're down here on step 5. We're going to give padding to our I'll get this out of the way, my color thing. All right, and we're going to add some, excuse me, padding to nav A. except this is going to be a little different. This is going to be a padding of height and a padding of width. So the height's going to come first, and and you don't want to go real big. I'm going to make it maybe, I would normally do, excuse me, 0.5, but I want to make it a little taller box. So I'm going to put like 0.75. Remember, these things are all going to change your, and it's going to be in EMs. It's all going to change your things. You know, you change one thing, it changes everything. And normally you would put another small number like that, but I know from playing around with this that I'm going to put 1 EM. I like a little bit wider box. Now notice what that did. That made us go down around the corners. So I'm going to come over and take a little bit off of my padding left. And I'm going to make it like more like 175, see if that does it. Not quite. Excuse me. There we go, 155. And that brings it all up where it belongs. All right, so things are lined up pretty good. But I think that I would like to take and make my line a little bit shorter, my line height. And I'm going to make my line height, I always start big just to make sure it'll cover it all. So I'm going to back it down, my line height. I made it 4 EM. I'm going to go down to like 3.5. Oops, that was a 4. I like it to hang off the edge. If you want it all the way up there, then leave it up there. But I like mine a little bit off the edge. So let me make it like 2.5. Yeah, I like mine kind of like that. So notice everything is finished on that. And our nav links are working. This is where it needs to be. So now the next thing, or the last thing we're going to do, is we're going to make a hover so that when you hover over each one of these, it will turn it into a distinct, different colored button. You can make it just change the letters. You can make it so it underlines it. But personally, I want to make it so it's distinct. And so I'm going to change the background color and the color of that. And you don't use any of these that you already have here. What you do is you do nav A : hover. And you cannot put a space there. They must touch. Ding, ding, ding. That's really important. So I'm going to say background color. You're going to like this. It's going to look really cool. See this picture here? That's basically what it's going to look like. So it's a background color. And I made the color All right, so now I've taken my color that I want it to be, and I have put that background color there. And I'm going to put, to go with it, because I like the bright colors, I'm going to put like a dark orange. And I'm going to make that's not quite dark enough. So let me get a little darker here. Maybe this one here. You're like, wow, that just doesn't, I can't see that with blue. Well, you'll see in a second. Oops. All right, and I'm going to make that the text color. And I usually keep the color picker open when I'm working. All right, and so let's go look at it. Sometimes I don't go look at it after doing each and everything. All right, so it's nice and distinct. It makes it into a button when I hover over it. Looks pretty good, huh? All right, so I'm going to round those corners because I like that 3D effect. It's looking to really stand out when I do that on here. All of this is inside Nav A Hover. No space. And you don't have to do all of this. You just have to change something when you hover. Five pixels, 5 pixels, 5 pixels. All right. So there's my page with nice navigation border or buttons. My logo sits on top of my navigation bar. I can see a strip of white up here at the top. My nav bar goes all the way up to the top, and this is on top. Voila, it is finished. Now here's the thing you can do if you have a transparent background and you don't want to do that after you turn it in and get your grade. You need these things for when you get a grade, but if you want to take off after you get your grade your box so that all that is done on it is it's sitting in the right spot, you're welcome to do that, but you need it to be there while you get the grade. I'll show you how cool this is going to look. It's going to just sit and kind of hang off the edge. And that is activity number 10. Oh, let's go over and make sure. It tells you in the green box all the things that you have to have for the grade here. And that is the end of this page. So next week we're going to learn how to, we're also doing another video, how to create a separate CSS page. We're going to show you how to do that on a video. It's real short, how to do it. And but after that, we're going to start making our wireframes for the other 2 pages. And we're going to create our other 2 pages. So we're pretty much finished with this page. And that's the end.